Alright, let's take a look. Okay, so I'm going to start with Joseph's, because Joseph was sending me this, it's got like a series on these. The only thing I suggest is the amount of, whenever you bring in lights that are not a primary light, so you don't have a primary light source, you're pretty much dealing with some sort of general ambient light that does not cast any severe shadows and does very little low contrast contour, which is what you have here, and then you have secondary, sort of like individual lights, like pot lights or something. So when you have that scattered across a room and you got pot lights in the ceiling, what happens is all the shadows are shared. So you don't really worry about cast shadows when you have 4 prominent light sources. What you do have to worry about is setting up the stage appropriately. So if you want to showcase these guys in all their form and structure, and they've got these heads that glow, why not dim the outside so that we have a stronger glow coming off of these guys? And I feel like this works better for the atmosphere when you, or the atmosphere of the lighting when you do something like this. Now my tools that I use, I messed up with the levels, messed around with the levels and went to hue, and then I fixed the levels again to bring the lights back up. But this is not enough to fix it. It has to be done manually because this is sort of like a sweeping thing that levels does. I feel like you have this little spotlight here, which is really nice, this little glow. Keep that there. The levels kind of ruined it and got rid of it, but I kind of want you to do that. What you can do if you want to paint it in is choose a color for that light source. Excuse me, T. You have to sort of paint it in all the areas that it would touch. Oopsie. So all the areas here where that spotlight would touch is pretty much the only thing you have to really create some form that might read. And it would touch only the areas that are within it. So maybe a light blue, whitish might work. And then lasso, erase away what you don't want. Oopsie. Because you got to set the atmosphere to be dark enough so that you can really showcase these lights that you've chosen for your image. So something like that where you paint them in is a little bit sort of better than just throwing in a spotlight that's just going to sit over everything. And you want to give these some gradual build up where they get hottest under the light. Just like this. And then follow up with the general glow. So you can't throw in any lights without having the glow correspond. And then you can throw in the glow, something like that. You of course have to cast the shadows, but you're not going to cast the shadows without using the colors already there on the ground. So just grab one of those ground colors and just throw in some rough shadows. Just like that, and it'll build up a little bit better. And what that will set the stage for is closing off areas where that spectral light, or that soft light, spotlight isn't touching. We want to close those areas off. And now we have dark enough outside, light enough inside, and then a nice sort of governed light source situation where the atmosphere is allowing every light to work individually. So we're going to keep the green hottest right along here. Oopsie. What am I doing? Oh. Highlights. Oh, I'm using the wrong fucking tool. Just under here is where we would have it. Sort of the hottest. And since these areas here are pretty much these little lamp heads, you kind of throw a burn tool over top just so that they can have their appropriate kind of light. And these are light sources, so you got to behave with them as if they are light sources. I might throw in some subsurface scattering on the ear. Would that work? Your choice. If you want it or not. It's just a little touch. But, wait. That's a little better. Nope. I don't know. It's an option if you want it. So since these guys are light sources, what you want to do is have them influence anything around them. So write this back at me, everybody. Light sources affect in their intensity and in their color. If they are blue, the object will be blue, or have a hint of blue, or a layer of blue over top of it. If the object, if the light has a purple color to it, it will illuminate a purple color. All right? What are you guys saying? Light sources affect things. How do they affect things, oh Spirit? Be specific. Oh, Spirit's the kind of person I see sitting in the back of the class. Troublemaker. Cool. Light sources infect in their intensity and in their color. Effect. Infect is good. Light sources affect in their intensity and their color. Effect. Like color and intensity transfers. Excellent, Teasy. Teasy. So what we want to do is I'm going to get a color layer, and I'm going to place that over everything that is nearby to these lights. And let's grayscale real quick and see what's happening. And let's give Joseph something. Why on earth, in heaven and earth, is this lighter than this? Why? This is the light source, and this is the reflection, and yet this is, well, these are pretty bad. These are my fault, but this. Why? And why aren't these the lightest things in the whole face? Why are these not lighter? So what we got to do is, while this is on, I'm going to turn on the dodge tool. Take those up all the way, and then I'm going to bring in a white. Because without that white, dodge tool isn't going to do it. Without that white, we won't have the height we need in the color. So what we need to do is shrink our brush and move our slider just enough over here, and go in, shrink our brush all the way, and give it some heat, because it does not feel like a legit light source. So as soon as we do this, it'll feel like the object is really illuminating, because light comes in heat levels. So if you ever looked at a flame isn't the same color all around. It's hottest near the center. So you have to treat all light sources like that. And that's exactly how light sources are. That's how light bulbs work. They have a center sort of most heated part right across the center. Putting this color on. Making sure this is the lightest spot. Any other artifacts are lowered in value. Nothing can be as light. It's just not possible in this atmosphere, in this environment. Only the light source gets away with it. I think these are light sources. I have to touch that. So. That down, bring that down. We've sort of balanced them. Turn the light back on. Nothing's really in the way. Do some color correction. Just like this, making sure anything that is beside these glowing heads has also turned blue. This way we're sorry about the mess here. This way we're unifying the light source together. Okie dokes. Okay. So let's zoom back. You see, it was very pastel and very faded, and now there's a little bit more atmosphere. And if you ever are, commissioned to do something cinematic, or bring in something that can be reproduced on a set, you're going to have to think about how light source really behaves. I mean, this is all nice and stylized and mattified and really pastel and faded and low contrast, but that doesn't read well in real life. And that's fine if that's your thing. But if you want more readable atmosphere, something representational, something familiar, then you're going to have to pick up on the way light behaves. I'm going to dim that down. Just clean this mess up, sorry. Light behaves this way. You can't have these kinds of glows unless it's dark enough out there. Or else, if the sun was up, if there was something illuminating the whole thing, where are the cast shadows? So not only is this at dusk, as soon as the sun has set, we have lights over here that are really illuminated. So if you've ever been on a street, as soon as the sun has set, instantly the main lights on the street become the street lamps or the cars. So these are the street lamps or the cars, and the sun has set already. And what you had before was something somewhere in the middle. It's like midday. It seems like midday for me. I'm reading midday, but like a black backdrop because of those greens. So I want to limit those greens, show how blue they are out there, but only when the light touches them, their green color is revealed. And lastly, I'm going to bring in a blue-green that's kind of dark. Actually, I'm just going to go down here and move my way up to the blue. And I'm going to place this green, the one that's affected by the blue, in a color mode over the areas where the light hasn't touched the green. Green behaves very differently under shadows. So that green is turning blue. If you ever looked at a tree at night, it literally seems like those leaves are blue. You know, if you didn't know any better, then you'd think they'd have changed color. But just by bringing in this beautiful color change, we're already getting a different atmosphere, the way the light challenges the colors and how the colors respond. I would give this, and one last thing, I don't ever recommend a square canvas. You know, you're either doing vertical canvas where the object you are drawing is an object that needs to be looked at from top down. So if it's a standing character, if it's a portrait, if it's a photograph of the peak of a mountain, it's only really effective when you take the photograph vertically. Or, in my opinion, there's only two. Or the canvas is horizontal, where your actual eye movement, your head actually needs to move from this side to this side in order to really get the expanse of that landscape and then do something cinematic. You always want to do something cinematic. Cinema is the awe factor. So if you're not embodying the awe factor in your work, then what's going to happen is it's going to feel limited, or it's going to feel crippled, or something's missing. So because you have landscape, because you have a prominent light source, and you have land on which objects are standing, be it characters or normal objects, be they characters or normal objects, please make the canvas horizontal. Even if you've got nothing on either side, it's just supposed to, whoa, holy shit, it's just supposed to be there. Because what we get out of it, there's different ratios available out there. There's cinematic ones, there's ones that are just, done very roughly. You just have to have it horizontal. But I feel like if you expanded the canvas just a little bit more, just a touch more, we would really get that effect that we want. Let me do it on the other side, and you'll see how instant it is. I'm just expanding the sides. Over here. Look at that. We get more space on either side to really appreciate this one singular cast shadow light source that's shining on these objects here, we really present it better and stage it better. I've never seen a horizontal or like a perfect square canvas. A stage. The canvas is too limited for us to really get an appreciation for the amount of space they're in. And our eyes are beside each other, so one eye is beside the other. Automatically, we're always getting a horizontal view of the world. There's always like a widescreen view of the world that we have. So keep to that, try to stick to those norms. They'll make your presentation a lot better. And presentation and rules and composition has nothing to do with your creativity. I am not trying to cripple your creativity. I'm trying to tell you there are specific norms and rules and helping rules that assist in presenting a theme. The theme is where your creativity will be. Okay, that's where your creativity will be expected. But over here, please follow the rules, because the rules are going to help you. The rules are there or else we would have a really, really hard time appreciating your work. And you want us to be able to appreciate your work. Now you have more space for clouds and for some more textures on either side, and they feel more compact, like they're really scared. They're walking through. They seem so careful. And this is the narrative coming in. They seem careful, like they're approaching something dangerous, or they're searching, or they're approaching someone who is looking at them, who they have cornered. That kind of stuff is really important to keep in mind, the narrative. And again, you don't have a narrative in a movie without the proper staging. Just trying to find a typical cloud brush over here. Just something very rough. Just so that we have a little extra to look at. Okay? So before, cancel, flatten, save, okay. Before, a little closed off, a little impotent, if that's the word. The canvas feels impotent. Feels like you closed it off just so you don't have to deal with it. Instead, really finish the story and continue it by adding spaces on either side. Maybe you'll be inspired. Maybe you want to add something else, maybe like fireflies, or maybe they're in some sort of really dangerous area. Maybe all of the areas here of the shadows. This is all creative stuff, so it's not my business, but maybe all the areas here you'll have like a bunch of eyes of like different monsters. Kind of reminds me of Pitch Black. You can bring in a new color that way. Something like, evil monster eyes. Something like peeking at them. You don't need much. And that way the sort of the story is finished. And that's not, you don't have to have that. I'm just saying the staging allows you to input some new information. And that's going to read better. Alright, so good job. Let me see what everyone's on about. Esther, please answer me. I did some research, but some artists, especially on YouTube, keep telling it would be that wax, and some telling it's wrong. What are you talking about? Julie and Devin. Can you guys ask me again? Because then I'm just going to be here looking for it. What about the theory that cool colors have warm shadows, Ista? Cool colors have warm shadows? In what situation? Cool shadows are cool shadows because there is none of the yellow, at least from what I remember, none of the yellow involved with the natural sunlight in the object. When an object loses its color, it loses its saturation. Saturation means that it's losing less of this upward curve. So it's losing less of the identity of the color. So whenever you're losing, the darkest color on the color wheel is blue. And that's a color that's already darkened its identity. So naturally everything looks blue when it's lost its identity. So let's go darker in the color wheel and then darken the red. This would be a good dark for a red because it's got some blue in it. So colors cool down naturally because blue exists and when it is desaturated compared to other colors in their height. it is naturally dark and naturally cool. So everything looks blue, but we as artists can't just wait for it to look blue. We have to go and bring in the blue itself so that we can imitate that effect that happens in real life. As for cool colors having warm shadows, let's say this is the base tone and we want to darken it. It really just depends on the atmosphere. I'm not sure about warmer colors. I mean, if we want to darken blue, we either go up to purple or go down to green, depending on the color and the object it is. So what kind of a situation are we talking about? There is, yeah, Envis Ars is right. There is the fact that you can bring in the complementary color, but the complementary color is useful only when you want to dim that color in the exact ratio. So the complementary color has nothing to do with why objects are cool or warm. It's just how that object is opposed both in color and in the value. So the opposite of yellow is purple, and the opposite, right? Orange is blue. Yeah, the opposite of yellow is purple. Yellow and purple are opposites both in the value, in the grays, in the grayscale, and in the color. So they help tackle each other better. But as for, specific rules, there is no such thing as that, because every object behaves differently. You'll have fabrics behaving crazily in their shadow. So in their shadow, they release a different kind of color. Again, it has to do with the environment as well. If there's flesh beside red, that shadow will be reddened if there's fabric that's red beside that shadow. Anyways, this is way too big a topic to be covering just by answering. So would have to have a whole class on it. Color theory is a bit complicated. It's got different, again, it's a theory. It's got different kinds of perspectives on it, and they usually all work. Just remember the basic rules is stay analogous if you don't know what to do. Complement colors and appropriately. Make sure you're not over contrasting, and make sure you stay in a friendly contrast climb. As long as you follow those rules, your colors will look harmonious no matter what. You can cool the way you want to, you can darken the way you want to, just keep your colors harmonious. It's a basic rule. Now, kind of need a glass of water. 1 second. Let me drink of water. Okay. This image here is very beautiful. I wanted to look at it for some time now. I just wanted to show you kind of what that eye was doing to the image. It's kind of in the way. So whenever I look at characters like these, I kind of try to imagine how Pixar might animate them. How Pixar might have modeled them and animated them. And it kind of shows me exactly what to do. And I'll show you the before and after in a second. Just like this. Okay. So you might be asking me, okay, along what guideline in your head are you making these changes? Pretty much anything that looks odd to me, anatomy-wise, will look odd to someone else, especially if my eye sort of is a little bit more trained. So I'm always in the realm of fixing anatomy, so I'm going to see it right away. But if we modeled this, which is why I'm saying, what if Pixar modeled it, how would it look like? The eyes would be massive and they would be really far apart. So if we rotated her, or him, to look forward, the eyes would be out here, and the nose would be out here, and the mouth would be kind of like that. And that's way too much of a deviation. You're asking too much of your style at this point. You're expecting too much out of this this deviation. You're not gonna get away with it, is what I'm trying to say. Even right now, this is looking wrong. What happens when we throw an eye off into side view? It gets compressed because we're not seeing the front curvature. So as long as you're showing the front curvature and the side, then the eye feels a little bit more realistic. But here the eye seemed like it was in a 3/4 view. This is a 3/4 view eye, or extended 3/4 view, and this is side view eye. Even if the character was looking up. If you wanted the character looking up. We just need to see that you're following some of the basic guidelines of realistic anatomy. And that way your image, in its stylization, in its color palette, isn't limited. It will stick out like a sore thumb if you have issues like these in your work after. So this feels a little bit more appropriate. I mean, we're seeing the side of her ear. We should not be seeing her eye in such good perspective. Half her eye is not visible to us because half her face is not visible to us. Everyone write that back to me. Why isn't her eye fully visible to us? The biggest giveaway was the fact that we were seeing some of this part of the eye here. That was the biggest giveaway. That this was inappropriate anatomy or disproportionate. The eye was completely cut and paste from a completely new face. If we erase this, naturally we want to draw the eye right over here. Just looking at it that way. Just in this shape. Bending to a cheekbone. Even if it's stylized with the eyebrow somewhere over here. Or looking in wonder. We never want to do this. Okie dokes, guys. Because half her face is not visible. Because it's inside of you. Good. So you're going to see half of everything. If there is something protruding and you're looking at half the face, you're going to see half of everything. You're going to see half the nose. You're going to see half the mouth. Why do you guys neglect showing half the eyes? Don't do it. Okay? I mean, don't show the rest of the eye. Show half the eye. I'm Istebrak. I'm very happy to see you streaming here. I actually found your tutorials on YouTube just a few days ago and I tried to follow them. May I share your link, or is it too late for this lesson? May I share you a link? Total work in progress though. You can share it. I'll throw it into the critique queue and I most likely will get to it. As for the composition, I already talked about it. Sometimes, even though it might be effective and dreamy, sometimes these glows that you add in can seem like extra accessories, pushing it. See, this is cute, it's very cute. Let me add a glow. So cute. That's basically what I'm getting whenever I see over glow and overly exaggerated stuff like this in a painting. What it tells me is that you're over dependent on the accessories rather than fixing the form. So, we're seeing half her face. She must be really tilting her face. I'm going to give a little extra space over here in order for us to not see the side of the hand, of the arm in that direction. So I feel like we shouldn't be seeing this side over here. It should be hidden behind this one. And this is a rotation problem. This means you can't rotate. When you rotate, instead of rotating, you put them beside each other. So let's say you had an object. Alright, everyone pay attention because it's not really advanced, but it's kind of complicated to understand. And I don't have a 3D modeling program to show you guys. Let's say you had this shape and you wanted to rotate, it looks like a lip. You want to rotate this shape to its 3/4 view. So this is its front view. When you guys rotate this object in 3/4 view, what you're going to do is just do this. You guys are going to lay them beside each other. You're going to cut them off. Alright, you're going to appreciate the fact that they need to be cut off, but you're going to put them right back in. What you need to do is show me how some of these areas here, this is a bad shape to use, how this, I think this is more steep. Okay, I'm just throwing myself a curveball here, but let's say that this stacks away. This needs to be compressed and hidden. If there was a bulge here, this was a bulge, right? This is the front view bulge, and this is the mouth. No, I can't do a face, because then you're going to... This bulge would eventually hide this part, this lip. But what you guys do is you grab that lip and you just stitch it right back on. Learn how to rotate. Give up. Give it up, guys. For the love of God, just give it up, because you do not need to lay them beside each other. Sometimes all you need is to not draw. But you guys draw when you shouldn't be drawing. This is a carefulness that you guys have. Sometimes when there's no object visible, all right, let me ask you something. When another object stands in the way of another object, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna draw the object standing beside that object? No, because that object is behind it. So just give it up. When there's nothing to draw, don't draw it. All right? So when you guys rotate the head, or rotate the body, this part will naturally bend over. All right? This will bend over this. This arm will be tucked neatly behind. Don't be obsessed by making this arm visible. Hey guys, I know there's an arm there, and I'm trying to show you that there's an arm, and I promise that there's an arm. I swear to God, I promise there's an arm. I believe you, there's an arm, but it's not going to be visible in this rotation. This object doesn't allow it. Alright? Sometimes we'll see just a hint, just a tiny hint of the other arm. Just a little touch. This arm here looked like it was like she was moving her arms up slowly, as if she was in the process of throwing her arms forward, like that. So this arm was ready. If she was just slacking, her arm would just tuck nicely on the other side of her hip, and that would feel more slacked. It'd feel more, like she's in the middle of a thought. So the reason why I rotated the head this way is because you had this problem. Let's go back to this. If you wanted the head to stay in that direction, what you have to do is bring in that other eye and tuck the nose in. So this was the kind of 3/4 view you had. You had half of two kinds of 3/4 views. I was just following the biggest piece, which was the face. The face, the head. Tuck that in there. That other eye is there somewhere. Looking out. The lash is catching some light. So when you guys rotate the heads, remember, if something is hiding behind another object, it's not visible. So we do not paint it. We don't force it either. You want to know what this is a symptom of? It's a symptom of not enough form studies in your lives. You don't study shapes enough. You don't study how shapes rotate. You don't study how shapes on shapes rotate. So you get something like that. You get the half of two instead of just one. Sometimes don't use black. Use the darkest value that's already there for the mouth. Little trick I learned watching, or like studying Pixar style. They don't really use black. They just use the darker because it's a model. Kind of didn't get the exact lip that you drew, which is a really nice lip. Okay, so this is the other option of what you could do to the face. This one or this one. Forgot your nostril. Alright, you still have to rotate this arm, sorta. Just a little less than before, because now her whole head is rotated. Okie dokie. I can't really save this. I'm just going to save it as a PSD if you want it again, but don't forget those important rules. What's this? Everyone's saying. Yeah, pineapple. I like the style very much too. Yeah, it reminds me of like those rendered Adventure Time things. It kind of has a touch of Pixar and Disney in it too. I really like it. The bold shapes. Very excited. Geez, so many pervs here. Okay, any questions? Hi, Ashlyn. Welcome back. Any questions, guys? So these are from last time. I wanted to touch on them. So for this one, all I have to tell you is there needs to be a bigger dip between this shade and this shade. So you do have one, it just needs to be bigger. Because if I were to see her face from the side, her nose would connect to her forehead too soon. What you want to show me is there's more of a steepness. So when you do that to an object that is facing forward, you want to show steepness. You just add a greater shadow. We first have to add the larger core shadow and then shrink it as we go down. And this cast shadow will fall over everything. Let me use darken layer. Casting some basic shadows here. I'll erase what I don't need. And my glasses broke again. Fuck. God damn it. Probably get new glasses. Throwing a cast shadow there. Blur. Everything's very soft. And then another cast shadow, or half the face in shadow, and it gets darker as you approach the chin, and then you erase away what you don't need, depending on the surface that's asking for it, which is the chin here. So a little bit of sculpting is what I'm doing right now. Sculpting is the term. Now we want to show reflection and texture differences, so I'm going to throw some of that light that's on the forehead over the brow. It's raising the value of the brow. And flatten. Very, very basic sculpting stuff to help make the face feel a little bit more three-dimensional. Or it was a little flat before. Closing it off. Rotation. Pretty much helps you do anything. We just rotated it and we determined that it needs a larger shadow, a deeper shadow. Okie dokie. So that's it. Thanks everyone for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.